Welcome to episode 2 of the VSP podcast, where we're going to be breaking down a high school baseball player's strength and conditioning program. There are 4 parts to this that we're going to be diving into, starting off with a warm-up, going to speed, agility, plyometrics, the strength portion, and then recovery. All of it's very important and plays a key role in somebody's session here at VSP. Also, I'm going to leave you with this too. It's not about what you want, it's about what you're willing to do to get it. A lot of athletes, they come to me with all these goals and aspirations of playing D1 baseball or beyond, and their work does not mimic what they're trying to achieve. So make sure that when you're going through your program, when you're thinking about your recovery, your nutrition, your sleep, your batting practice, with your pitching coach, or whatever you're doing, put your best foot forward. Make sure you're giving a effort every single time, and I guarantee you're going to see progress and hopefully reach your goals. So let's dive into this next episode. So to start us off, we're going to be going over the warm-up. Warm-up is really important. A lot of athletes typically don't like doing it, and I get it. It's boring. You're typically sitting around, potentially rolling around on a foam roller or lacrosse ball, doing some stretches that you have no idea why you're doing it. And I recommend to all athletes and coaches to educate yourself on the why behind it, right? You don't want to just go through the motions and not get anything out of it, or go through with half effort, right? As I stated in the intro here, is you want to make sure that you are doing whatever you need to do in order to reach your goals. And oftentimes the warm up, especially for our stiffer athletes, is super important. So we have a few parts of our warm-up. First, it starts with some breathing work where it's going to reset nervous system, get you to breathe using your diaphragm, maybe just create some stability and, groove some certain patterns, whatever you're trying to do. We utilize breathing, for about maybe 3 to 5 minutes at most here. We're not going to overkill it and bore an athlete to death, but we want them to understand the importance of it and then how to utilize it, certainly in our weight room or in their sport. Whether it's a simple dead bug breathing, feet elevated, belly down, there's a lot of different variations, and, feel free to check out YouTube, for, whether it's like Charlie Weingraf or some other people that utilize, breathing mechanics. It's really important to start your warm up off with that. Next, we're going to go into soft tissue work. So this could be utilizing, a foam roller, Theragun, lacrosse ball, Ackie mobility ball, whatever it is, to just target tight areas. A lot of baseball players, we're going to attack the lat, the pec, upper back, and then also lower body, calves, hamstrings, quads, adductors, mostly trying to get the bigger muscles that play a huge role in any sort of the movements here. Of course, you're looking at an athlete across the spectrum, right? Certain athletes going to be a lot more stiff. We're probably going to spend more time with soft tissue work. And athletes that are a little bit more loose, you don't have to do as much, right? They probably don't have, areas that are super toned up. So you don't have to spend 3, 4, 5 minutes trying to loosen up. Then after the soft tissue work, we're going to go into mobility work, which typically I choose 3 to 4 upper body and 3 to 4 lower body mobility exercises to get them to run through it, expose themselves to, bigger ranges of motion, address tight areas, and give them the tools necessary to prepare themselves for whatever exercises we're going to be doing today, right? If you're going to be, squatting or lunging, and somebody has, super tight hip internal rotation, we're going to be doing some hip internal rotation work during a warm up. And then lastly, we're going to get the heart rate up, increase the blood flow with a dynamic, right? It could be your simple, run series of, like marches and skips, shuffles, or it could be more movement specific where maybe you're having them go through a squat series. It's really contingent upon whatever you think that athlete needs. Those areas should take care of a good, solid warm-up. But at the end of the day, and it needs to be something that's intentful, and you're going to be hearing me talk about that a lot today. Whatever you're doing, have intent. Understand the why behind it so you crush it. Next part we're going to go into is plyometrics and speed and agility. So plyometrics, I consist of, med ball work and then any sort of intensive and extensive jumping. Obviously for baseball, rotational sport, explosive, right? We're all on the end of the spectrum, opposite of being a marathon runner, where everything we're going to be doing is short, quick, and fast. So during our plyometrics, We want to have that intent behind that, right? If you're throwing a med ball, you're not just, half-assing it. You're throwing it as hard as you possibly can. My intent is to be powerful. My intent is to be fast. We utilize a lot of like scoop tosses, shot puts, a lot of variations that you can find simply on our YouTube, but nothing crazy. We keep the volume fairly low so the output could be super high. For speed and agility, for baseball, we'll get you moving multi-directional, all three planes of motion, side to side, forward, back, rotating, reactionary, certainly we use a lot, but we're working on acceleration, top end speed, and change of direction, right? For our outfielders, infielders, whoever need to work on the 60-yard dash, we're going to be working a ton on base stealing mechanics, how to start off properly, definitely not the crossover. We're certainly going to go the jab step, but that's another podcast, and get our athletes moving quick and efficiently. We do a lot of testing, so we'll do 10-yard sprints, flying 10s, 5-10 5s, and, different reactionary drills as well to get the athletes to have some fun with it and competitive, because we want them to get the most out of their time, especially during the speed, agility, and the plyometrics, which has a lot of carryover into baseball. Once we finish up our plyometric speed and agility, then we're going to go into our strength. It depends on the athlete, depends on the day. Everything is typically going to be individualized to our athletes here at Victory Sports Performance, but we're going to be working on lower body strength, upper body strength, core, arm care. We'll work mobility in there and any other accessory work that is necessary for that baseball player. If we have somebody who, who's 16 to 18 years old, has a training age of, at least like 6 to 8 months, we're probably going to have them, be doing some bigger compound lifts, right? Whether that's, split squats, reverse lunges, front squat variations, zerchers, safety bar we utilize a lot here. We typically don't do back squats often just because of the stress it puts on the shoulders. But any bigger, stronger lifts of the lower body, we're going to be attacking with them, keeping the volume fairly low so the intent could be super high, right? We're going to prioritize movement and control during these lifts, so nobody gets hurt and they can get strong and continue to move well, right? So because the biggest issue I see is that athletes tend to ego lift, right? Where they're trying to lift as much weight as possible and their range of motion stinks. Their form is starting to break down, whether they're getting the valgus, shoulders are shooting forward if they're having a back rack position, and it's doing more harm than good. So again, have intent, understand why you're doing it, and do it properly. And the other thing is, and I said this in my last podcast, if the strongest guys, right, if I'm lifting the most amount of weight, if I was one of the stronger guys, you'd see all power lifters in Major League Baseball, in the MLB, in the NBA, whatever it may be. Make sure that we're moving with intent and training like an athlete. We're not just trying to lift as much weight as possible to impress our friends or thinking that that's what coaches care about. No, everybody cares about your output on the field, what you're doing out there on the baseball diamond. So like I said, upper body lifts, lower body lifts, arm care, we always work into our strength portion, whether an athlete's lacking external rotation, internal rotation, stability. We do a ton of carries, farmer's carries, suitcase carries, waiters walks, things that are going to get their rotator cuff working, and also stabilizing that glenohumeral joint. We're going to be working in core work, anti-extension, anti-rotation, making sure that we're giving them an array of exercises to challenge themselves. I love utilizing paddle off variations, chops, lifts, things that are going to get them working in multiple planes of motion instead of just planks and dead bugs, which are great and effective, but not going to have as much carryover to their sport. After we get through the bulk of their strength work, there could be any sort of accessory we're going to be filling the gaps. Whether it's upper back work on any sort of ankle, hip abduction, hip adduction, hip flexion, areas that don't typically get hit on that often. We want to make sure we address those, during the latter parts of their lifts, to make sure that we're, doing what we can to hopefully prevent any sort of injury and work on areas of need. But at the end of the day, We want to make sure that we're looking at that athlete from a global perspective, right? We're hitting all the big points, right? The lower body, upper body, the arm care, and then we'll narrow it down, as we individualize it to that athlete, right? Like again, you're going to have athletes that are super stiff, super loose, athletes coming in with a, previous maybe a Tommy John surgery, athletes that have torn their ACL, whatever it may be. There's going to be ways that you need to make sure that you individualize it to that specific athlete. And then the last portion of the lift is going to be any sort of recovery work or optional conditioning. We don't typically put our baseball players through a whole lot of endurance work, just based on where the sport is on the energy system scale. But we have certain athletes that need to work on body composition. So obviously, abs are made in the kitchen, so nutrition is going to be at the forefront of that. But sometimes they need to get a little extra cardio work in there to make sure that they're, doing what they can to, decrease that body fat. But overall, for our approach, we're going to be intentful. We're going to take our time. We're going to really teach these athletes so they get the most out of it, and ensure that we individualize it to that individual. So it's not a one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter type program. That's why we take pride in our program writing here at Victory Sports Performance, and you should do the same thing. So if you have any questions, we're always here. You could reach us via Instagram at VSP Training. You can also shoot us an email, info@vsptraining.com. But we're always here to help. We want to be a resource, a beacon of knowledge for all the athletes, especially on Long Island and beyond. So hope to hear from you soon, and I'll see you at the next podcast.